I definitely believe that I have an artist's soul, and that's actually how I started even loving music. I was singer, songwriter, twirler, tapper, dancer, dreamer, all of that. So music was definitely kind of my drug of choice, and it still is. But I don't perform. Maybe one day I'll get a guitar and never come to my office because I'm being artsy. But anyway, Stacy, tell us about yourself, who you are.
Hi, everybody. Thank y'all for coming. Again, I'm Stacy Epps. I'm an attorney and an artist, like she said. Just to give you, background, I went to University of Virginia undergrad in Charlottesville. The VA. Also went to USC Law School in LA. I knew, basically, like she said, I was an artist. I've always loved music, performing, MC as well as singing. And so I've always loved music, always been around music, and knew a lot of musicians, of course, right, and artists, because I was one. And all I would see and all I would hear is just these terrible stories from my friends. Situations where they got signed, which everyone feels like is like the golden ticket, like, oh, I got signed, I got a date, But they get signed, and then what would happen? Can anyone guess what would happen from them getting signed? It would be a horror story.
They would get shelled.
That's the word right there, right? So they would get shelled, and then they would go years, can't perform, can't do anything. They're basically stuck at a label. And then just other different situations, people not getting accounted to, especially independent artists. Unfortunately, that happens a lot. Just so many different stories. And I was like, you know what? I do want to go to law school, so I went to law school specifically to do music law. That's why I chose LA. And actually, when I went to LA, to USC, they gave me an internship at Arista. Like, it was like a fellowship program. So it was just like, yes, And so while I was in LA, I was also able to perform and tour. I worked with artists. I don't know if y'all know, independent, Madlib or MF Doom. I don't know if y'all familiar. Y'all look them up. Yes. Stone's Throw Records in LA. So we would Flying Lotus. Anyone ever heard of Flying Lotus? Yes, you know how to get some music. Write down these names. It's good. The thing that I do is I focus on education and educating artists. So I'm also faculty at Art Institute of Atlanta. So I teach music business to audio production students. So I love that, right? Because basically I'm one of the first classes they take, first year, young artists, just like, I want to learn, I want to know, I do music, I love music, right? And basically not understanding, what's copyright. The first thing is, how do I copyright my band name? Can anyone tell me about that? Is that correct?
Trademark.
Yeah, good job. Thank you. But that, right there. I want to copyright my music by signing up with a PRO. No, you cannot. It's publishing my music, registering it with a PRO. What's a PRO? Organization. Good. What are the three? In the U.S. NYC. Good. I love this. You see I'm a teacher, right?
I never asked.
First year, so y'all know, right? Y'all get fire questions, right? Do they just call you out?
Yeah.
Oh. So I'm about to call you. Stop. No, I'm gonna give y'all a break. But anyway, so that's a focus, So it's all about supporting, empowering artists and entrepreneurs. So that's what my legal practice is focused on. I met Evita recently. Well, not really, kind of recently, but we worked together in a couple deals. Yeah. And I really, really am inspired by her, what she's doing. And I feel like we're kind of on the same page, And so for me, it's all about, like what she says, inspiring change. That's what it's about. If you think about the contracts, recording contracts, they really have not changed much over the years. The only thing that one of the major changes has been, incorporating more rights. Now you have digital files, now you have MP3s, stuff like that. But now you have 360 deals. you know, like you said, live performances, merchandising. A lot of times they'll take 50% of that.
Yeah, that's kind of lumped into what you can expect to get from a recording agreement. So it's going to be the recording piece and then the merchandise. But as a lawyer, what I like to do is differentiate. You know, what is merchandise? Is merchandise what you're selling on tour, or does merchandise also include, you know, Nike using your name and likeness on a T-shirt line? As a lawyer for the talent, I'm going to carve out merchandise as developed by third parties as opposed to what a talent will be selling on. Two completely different things, but you know, the deal's not going to state that, and sometimes it will expressly include any kind of third-party merchandise deals as well. I consider that endorsement, but that's a whole nother. What I would love to get into today, as we talk about the driving change, really what we have to do to drive change as far as professionals, and then how we are driving that change with our clients and inspiring them or empowering them to kind of be the change within the industry as well. So you talked a little bit about all the pieces of you. You've got the education piece, you've got the creative piece, you've got the entrepreneur piece, and then you've got the legal piece. So how do you see yourself with all of those pieces in the music space as kind of that a catalyst for change just within the professional business?
I think it really, as far as with clients and everything I've noticed, I feel when they talk to me, they say, I know you understand where I'm coming from and what I'm going through. I've been on tour through Europe. I've been on, a tour van. I've been doing shows, staying in people's living rooms. I've done all that. So I've been there, and they feel like I can understand, where they're coming from. The other thing is, is just creating. I think it's more like the traditional kind of like music lawyer thing. I think is really changing, and it's really becoming like a support system. I'm seeing from some other attorneys as well. Another one who I'm really impressed by. Another young lawyer. I'm just really, there are older ones, and I respect them and, what they've been doing, but I really see, when you say driving change, I see it with the younger attorneys coming up, right? So a woman named Jonae Williams, if y'all, I'm not sure you heard of Jonae? So y'all can look her up, JO-NA Williams, and I think her website's like jawilliamslaw.com. And she actually spoke to one of my classes, but she has like the broad base. So she does represent clients, but she also does coaching and, other services for her artists that need that, right? Because it's like more of a holistic thing. So when I talk to my clients, I say I consider myself a holistic attorney, where I look at the artist from the bottom up. I look at the whole picture. I don't say, well, give me a contract, I'll look at it and I'll negotiate for you. And you'll get that a lot. A lot of attorneys have made up, they don't care. They're like, give me the contract. I'll work out it for you. They won't even explain it to you, right, so you understand. Like, I'll actually go through my contract with my clients and really take the time to make sure they understand it. That's the educational piece, right? So it's very important, and I think that's what I see the change as being more now than ever, that your artist also is a business person, and they have to be to succeed. So the training in entrepreneurship for an artist is even more important nowadays. So, the days of an artist saying, I'm just going to be an artist, whatever, and that's one of the first things I say to my class. Well, what's the percentage that percentage commission that a manager should take? And I'll hear everything from 50 to 60%. Okay? For a manager. What do you all think that it should be?
10 to 15.
Good. Good. So anywhere from 10 to 25%. Generally, it's 15 to 20, like most of the time. But if you can get 10,
The point that you brought up, or a phrase which I like, called bottom up. That's certainly my approach as well. I haven't, got a phrase for it, but I think that's something that that's the added value. And not only is it the added value, I find that my approach in that way is why people end up working. It's, we can do a good deal, some of us. but taking a vested interest in making sure that your client understands the business of his or her craft. There's such a value to that because it communicates to the client, whether it's an artist, producer, songwriter, independent label, this is a person who understands me. I can communicate with this person and they can take what I've said and sort it out. I don't have to worry about every phone call because this is a person who's genuinely interested in making sure that I understand what I'm doing. It empowers me to make better decisions in the long run. That is why I think we need to be thinking about the profession. How are you going to come in as future music attorneys and really create that change? It's not going to be necessarily in the deals that you do. You're going to want to do good work. Got to do good work. But it's how you manage and treat the people that are connected to the deal and the context within which the deal exists.
So, like example, just to cut in, I'm sorry, but when you're talking about treatment, right? So when I was in law school at USC, we actually had a music law class, which was awesome. And we would actually go through music contracts. And so it was a very top attorney teaching that class who represented some people like, he represented like Will Smith, Beyonce, people like that. I'm not going to say his name. But the way that he would talk about artists would be, they're stupid. They don't have but a high school education anyway. It's the whole, when you say treatment, it's a looking down on situation where, it's kind of like, oh, well, I'm better than that. They don't get it anyway, so whatever, And like when you're saying changing that perception and when you can bring that value and understand it, and then it's also helping the clients to understand because sometimes, and there's a lot of people will get signed, don't have a lawyer, and then say, well, the label recommended this lawyer to me. How many times have you heard that?
A lot.
Where they'll get an attorney that the label recommends. And in those instances, they go to lunch every day with the label. They work, they I don't think they should be allowed to do that. But lawyers that moonlight with the label, so they get actually on the payroll at labels while they're representing the artists. That's a huge conflict.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff on. That's like a whole.
That's a whole
other thing. But to the point though, that you were saying, and it goes to kind of driving the change. Earlier on in my career, I knew that coming into this profession, because I was a young black female, that there were going to be certain perceptions. I didn't know anything. That was true at that time. I didn't know anything. But what I realized was that I had to build a brand, and this is something that I've talked about before in the program, is building a brand. When I realized that I was no different than the up-and-coming artist, producer, and songwriter, I then took the advice that I would give a client. You are talented, but who knows and who cares and why? It's the same thing with me. I graduated from law school, and I said this before, I thought I should have been representing all the Puffs, the Jay-Z's, all of that. That was what I thought was going to happen. And it didn't happen. I thought I wanted it so bad. But I had to build a brand. I had to, get some work underneath my belt. But because I focused on being that brand, I had to focus on, what do I stand for in this space? Why should people care? Why do people want to be in business with it? And how do I communicate it with other people? When I focused on that and I found what my brand is, don't forget about the music, and really stood on that, I began to connect with the talent. Because ultimately, that's what they want to do, the music. And if you can kind of hold their hand and build this relationship with them of trust, it is something for me that will last over time. And it's getting to know them, and because we're kind of artsy people, if you're an artist or producer or songwriter and you walk into my office, I already know what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you want, what you think you want, what you've been through. I already know that. So when you sit down and you talk to me and you tell me exactly, what I already know, I can then say, this is where you've been, this is where you want to go, this is how we need to kind of shed everything that you've been through, and this is how we can build. And I can have that conversation because I listen and I understand it. A lot of lawyers who've been doing this forever that connection is just not there. And I don't think in this profession, as you all are future music attorneys, that you can disregard that basic human fundamental connection that you'll need to have with a talent. That's where the trust comes in. If they don't trust you, they can go to any lawyer they want to and get the work done. But if there's that kind of, I trust this person because they see me, they hear me, they want to protect me, they're educating me, they're holding my hand, they're my therapist. You do have to be that, and then you have to do good work. You really have to fight for them. When you can do that, you'll end up with some client relationships over time. But I think as professionals, we can't come into the music space saying, how are we going to change the space? We first have to think, how are we going to change the profession? So then we can go ahead and try to change the space for the talent.
It's important to get the knowledge, right? So it's important to work with another music attorney and learn how they do it, right? You may not agree with, right, how they do it or how business is generally done in the music side. And, you know, I always say, you know, you have to know and understand so that you can change it, right? And, you know, that's another big thing is, you know, representing a client and negotiating a deal, right? Because that's what, who in here wants to be a transactional attorney? Okay, so one of the major things you're doing is negotiating deals, right? So you have to find a balance between, you know, what you want when you say you fight for your client to get them the best they can get, but you have to be, you know, knowledgeable of, you know, a certain, when you're dealing with a certain situation, and you don't want to blow that deal, right? I've had an instance with, and this was an independent situation. Someone had a independent, I think, distribution deal on the table, and I think they had a low percentage rate. I think I just upped it 5%. And they said, you know what? No, we don't want to do the deal. I mean, it was just a 5%. I was like, what? You know, it's like, let's negotiate this. Why, you know, why are you just like blowing the deal because of this, you know? And really what I told my client is that's not a situation you want to be in, right? But they obviously don't want you that bad. But now he's, you know, the musical director for Miguel. Okay. Right? So it's like in that situation, it's like you go through things, sometimes it doesn't work out, right? And that's part of what you say when you're talking to your clients and counseling and letting them know, like sometimes you have, you know, you have to have those hard conversations. Like, ah, damn, they don't want to do it anymore. You know, but everything happens for a reason and towards your advancement. If you're tied down with something, you might not be able to do what you're doing now, right? So, you know, part of that, understanding like entrepreneurship, how to start and run your own business, right? Like you say, a holistic attorney, or, you know, in that field, you like to advise your clients on the whole picture. And I always tell them, a lot of people wait until the last minute to do things, right? Like, oh, well, I hear this all the time. Do you have a manager? Oh, you have a manager. Do y'all have an agreement? Oh, no, we just cool. Oh, we're cool. You know, once something happens, you know, we get it together. No, don't do that. I say that all the time, because when the money comes is when the list of everything they did for you comes up, right? So at first, oh, we're cool, whatever. Oh, yeah, I'll pay for this, whatever. Deal on the table. Oh, remember we had talked about 25%. Here's a bill. These are all the things I said, right, that you owe me. No, handle it now. It's best while you're, you know, a lot of people look at, you know, a startup artist and they look down on them or something like that. But that's the key, is helping them groom to get to that level. So when they're ready to blow, all their ducks are in a row. You know, you say it's just a, you know, the metaphor of tree roots, right? You won't grow if the roots messed up. You know, same thing with artists.
I do have colleagues that function in both capacities. There's a way to do it. When things are going well, it's not a problem. When the artist is, or the client is unhappy with something, it's like, well, who do I talk to? What if I have issues with my management? Who's my lawyer? That's where the conflict comes up. But a lot of some of my colleagues do it and they find a way to work it out. I will say earlier on in my career, because I was working with a lot of up-and-coming talent that didn't have management, I was just filling in the gaps because I wanted to see things get done. I pulled myself from that capacity, and we didn't have a management agreement. I pulled myself from that capacity because I don't want to be a manager. It is a very it's okay. It's all fine. Sorry. It's something that I pulled myself from because I want to be the lawyer that cares because I do, not the manager that cares because you have to. A manager is dependent upon the artist or the client going out and performing. I mean, we're talking about people with people issues and relationship issues and depression and childhood issues, and I had one particular client, lovely young lady. I believe that she had the ability to change the world with her talent. I truly believe that. I believed it more than she did. She couldn't get beyond life to serve her gift. I said, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. So I kind of had my dealings in that, but not for me. But there are attorneys that do that and do it well. And usually when they do it well, they end up leaving the legal profession and jumping straight into all the way into management.
Some of the things that we're saying, the management and legal world do overlap, right? So a manager advises and counsels artists on their long-term career goals, right, and what they need to do. They're also the one there picking up the phone all the time, sending calls, handling PR, basically kind of the leader of, their whole business. So it's like, if you find an artist, like she found someone she really truly believed in, who's like really willing to make that relationship work, then you can. But I do some of those things too, but I'm not like a day-to-day manager.
So it's possible, but you want to be very clear about where the lines are and what happens in the event that there is a conflict. And talk that through. If that's something you want to do, talk that through with your client. Understand that as management, this is my role with respect to you and your career. As a lawyer, this is what my role is and what my obligation is. And in the event that you feel that I can't do, that I'm not doing one, or I'm doing one and not the other, let's have that communication so that way it's not 5 years down the road and you're saying breach contract and conflict and all that stuff. So you want to be very clear about that, get that in writing. And when you're forming the management relationship with the client, even suggest to the client or the artist to have an independent advisor talk them through kind of that dual relationship, so they can have a third party explaining that to them. But you can absolutely.
Well, I love the fact that both of you come from an artist background, and I think that gives you a wonderful perspective when you're dealing with the clients and potential clients. Can you talk a little bit about how, as an attorney, you're able to manage, I guess, dual brands in yourself, an attorney and an artist, and how the education that you received has kind of enhanced your career and your opportunities? Because I think that's something that people who come from an artist background maybe struggle with. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the question you asked is something I deal with every day, right? And balancing, and for me with my art, it's just something that I do and that I am. So it's like, when I want to write a song, I will. When I want to record a song, I will. I might go a month, 2 months, and not write one song, and then I might go, a month and write 10 songs. It's like an inspiration and a creative thing. I think my music, because I've had people tell me, music attorneys that are pretty successful, that I would never be able to do that. Would never be able to do music, and because people wouldn't, be able to like place, like, what do you really do? You know what I mean? Type of thing. But I think the music that I do, it's music that's I kind of like appropriate to like my image and what I do. But I have a lot of people that don't even know I'm an attorney. Okay, so I'm working on that, branding and all that, right? Because there was a while where you know, a lot. I mean, I was an artist. I still am, you know, but sometimes I find myself saying was, and that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of people don't even know that yet. You know, oh, you're an attorney, really? Well, type situation. So I go through that. So I'm working on kind of branding that. And, you know, as far as the attorney, there's some people know me as attorney that don't know me as an artist. So it's almost like a double-sided thing, you know. And so it's just all about, you know, when I create art, I draw as well, you know. So it's just, for me, it keeps me balanced. That was the biggest thing for me, because as an artist and just doing music, I felt like I can just go off the deep end, kind of. It's just, you know, and so it kind of keeps me balanced, you know, to do the business and do my art. So it's a, you know, it's an interesting thing. Like you were talking about whether you're going to take a break. So I graduated from law school. I take 2 years out of law school and record an album and tour through Europe. And then I decided to take the bar and do that. And then even after I took the bar, I worked with another attorney in Atlanta. And I mean, it was like kind of a part-time thing. So I might be like, okay, well, I'm out for 4 months and go tour and then come back and then work again. You know, it's just been a kind of a mix, you know, for me. But I just love music. I love being around artists. You know, it's just something that is in me. So, you know, as I get older, I have less of an interest in going on the road.
Do whatever you want to do. Just because you go to law school, and it's kind of a track. You go to law school to do what? Be a lawyer. Well, I mean, it's actually your life. You can do what you want to do. Mm-hmm. So I look at that and I'm like, ooh. So you
get in law school too. And you get in law school, because I know this happened to me in law school. I would go to events and panels, and, you know, the question people always ask is, well, how do you, you know, get to where you are? What's the best path to take? I always heard the same thing. You know, you got to work for it. Go to a big firm, work there for a couple of years, get your feet wet, you know, and then you can go on and do, you know, and now people will tell you that.
Lies.
People will tell you that, they will tell you how they say you should go on your path. Don't listen to that.
Nope.
You know, just because they're successful in their way, you know, that doesn't mean that that's the path for you. So, you know, forge your path the best way, you know, that you can, and do what you want to do. A lot of, like you said, a lot of people go to law school. It's an excellent, you know, preparation for almost anything, you know.
Because I do have an artsy kind of soul. I found out very early on in my career, there's no way in the world for the rest of my life that I can sit in my office and do deals. My creative soul would just die. So for me, that's why I'm writing a book. That's why I have this program. I consider myself to be a personality within music. My platform is music. My core is being a lawyer. That's kind of the seat that I sit in, and it's going to allow for me to open the other doors where I can be creative, I can be artsy, and I can be involved in music in any way that I want to be involved in music. So that's how I balance out. But I can't sit in my office for the next 40 years just getting deals, because for me, I mean, the money is cool now. There was a long time I did not have any money. Now things are cool, but that's not what drives me. No matter if the invoice says $5,000 or $15,000 or $25,000, I am working far beyond that, and I know it. Because I just love it so much. I love just being involved with music and making music happen. And I love how the brand of what I'm doing is unfolding and allowing for me to be creative. A couple different ways. And this is, as I tell managers and even some of my clients, and more so with the managers, I can be a manager if I wanted to. You can't be a lawyer.
Right.
I just have a certain perspective and I see things differently. So even if an artist is, or a producer or songwriter is taking more control over their career, We just know something as lawyers, and it's not a secret, it's a skill. We just have something that they will not be able to do on their own. So not to say, oh, you can do whatever, but you can't do without me. That's not how you want to position it. But as you're building the relationship with that talent, that's something that they will know. What will likely happen is that it's taking fewer steps to get things to you. So as opposed to a bunch of fires that we're putting out, the artist is more educated and understands what needs to happen. I write this out, I understand this is my percentage on this, Evita. As opposed to a bunch of, Beyonce's not her own lawyer. We know that for sure. It's just way too much. I mean, but what you'll do as the talent is growing, it's about that trusted relationship. It's about asserting yourself in areas that may not necessarily be legal. If you're a lawyer, they're going to come to you for legal things. They come to us for legal things. But if I'm having a conversation with them about their brand, I'm having a conversation with them about their music, about ideas that I have that I think would be a good fit, it broadens how they see you. And next thing you know, they're saying, what do you think about this? Or, hey, there's an opportunity that I think would be a great fit for you. I know you didn't ask me, but this is what I think of your brand. This is what I think could add revenue and whatnot to what you're building. And you position yourself that way.
And what is a label today? Like, how valuable is a label today?
That's a good question.
Things of that nature. I feel like there's so much opportunity in music when it comes to being a music attorney, because all the old ways of going about, you don't need it. Like she's not the only one, but she's the best example I'm coming with right now of really don't need all those other facets. You can go straight to the music attorney and make your money that way.
Well, it's a couple things to what you're saying. As far as being scared about anything, don't be scared about anything. Another thing is that I think Beyonce is a good example in the sense that we all know who she is, but we cannot forget about the history of Beyonce. This is something, 15 years after the fact. She is who she is, and she's going to be that. Although I think it's interesting, over time she'll have to continue to figure out how to not necessarily rebrand, but to keep us interested in the brand. One, I believe that if my clients choose to go elsewhere, they will not get what I've provided because it's unique to me. That may be fine for them, but they're not going to get it. And there's such a history. There's such a, we've gotten through this. We've worked through this. We've accomplished this together. And it's personal. I'm all in with my clients. All 10,000 of them, I am all in. It can't just be, here's your deal. Here's your deal. They will leave because there's nothing that they're attached to, because they can get that anywhere else, even if it just looks good on the outside, but it's not really good on the inside. If you can create, you have to be all in with people. These are people. And as people, we all feel the same things. We want to be validated. We want to be heard. We want to connect. We want to be loved. We want to be secure. You got to connect. I connect with my clients on that level. You got to connect. You got to add that to the service that you provide.
So, digitally, there are good things and bad things, right? I mean, we love the accessibility of music, that artists are able to get their music out there to more people and spread the music and all that. There are different income streams now when you're dealing with streaming, when you're dealing with, something like Spotify, what is some other thing? Pandora. YouTube. My only, one of my, when you look at the issue, though, is dealing with the levels of money that are being made, in those situations, which I kind of have a problem with. I think it's very low, the amounts that they're paying. And it's a very sophisticated, formula for determining, say, to get, your money on Spotify. Like, they determine what percentage of plays you are for the total number of plays for that month. And then they give you that percentage kind of the money, and like per play, it's like, how much is it, 0.5%? Or maybe a little less than 0.5% per play. So, I mean, until really you got to have about, a considerable number of plays to get a considerable amount of money. And, my thing with that is, okay, well, people can play your album on demand, but you're not seeing the same amount of money as if they purchased the album, right? So I think it's, you know, the legal side, the business side always has to catch up with the technology. And I think that's really what we're doing now is, you know, kind of playing catch up and figuring out, you know, they're doing the first revision of the Copyright Act since 1976 now. Okay? So they had the DMCA, which kind of tried to fill in some of the blanks.
Yeah,
you know,
didn't.
which, right. And so now they're finally revising it. And they're actually, I don't know if any of y'all are interested, but it's a good time. They're accepting like submissions, like comments on their thoughts about copyright and stuff like that. So I think a lot of it is, you know, innovation. I mean, you're seeing a lot of people making money are the actual startups, the music startups, music tech companies. You know, they said iTunes changed the whole business model, and it's not a music company, right? It's Apple, computer company, right? So when you look at it, it's really being up on the technology and understanding it and being able to advise your clients in that way about, you know, maybe some moves they can make because they might be creative on that side as well.
It's challenging in that sense because the consumer is always going to go for what's more convenient. They're still getting the music. They're not worried about the business of music. They're getting what they want, which is the music. But it's through a platform and a medium that doesn't necessarily serve the talent and the creators on a financial standpoint. But we can't really ask consumers anymore to not go to Spotify or the other things that will be developed over. It's just not going to happen. You'll still have fans that'll go out and buy the albums, but it's just the ease. We live in a time where we need everything right now. I can go on my phone and hit, you know, buy, and next thing you know, I have an album. Or I can go to Spotify. I don't have a Spotify account. I'm still on the fence about how I feel. It's difficult in that sense that, you know, the money it's completely diluted. People are getting itty-bitty checks. The next thing is that with all of these companies that are platforms for music, the Pandoras, the iRadio, iHeartRadio, all these other platforms where we can hear the music, the content owners, mostly the major record labels and the major publishers, are now cutting deals with these companies to either get licenses or to be able to participate in ad revenue. We have no idea at this point, from a legal standpoint, how that translates into money for our clients who have entered into recording deals, you know, last year or two, whatever the case may be. That's a problem. Because if Sony is, and I'm just making this up, if Sony is cutting a deal with Pandora to be able to cut into their revenue and it's giving them $250 million a year, and my client is a Sony artist or Sony ATV songwriter, I'm like, whoa. Well, if Sony has made a deal with Pandora to be able to participate in ad revenue, this is not even song licensing. We kind of understand it a little bit more. Still don't know what our clients are getting, but we get that. From an ad revenue standpoint, how are our clients getting revenue from that? Because this is the deal. Pandora could say, look, we only want to pay you $100 million in music license. In addition to that, we'll pay you $250 million in ad revenue to make you feel okay. And Sony may say, that's cool. But how does the ad revenue, which is a part of that deal, how do our clients and songwriters and artists, how do they get paid from that deal? At this point, recording agreements aren't really addressing much. Labels aren't calling us and publishers aren't calling us saying, yeah, so we just cut this deal with Pandora. You know, this is the percentage that, you know, your guy's going to get. We don't know. But we do know that these major companies are making these deals, these types of deals, so that we know that these companies are offering these types of deals to the majors to appease them. We don't want to pay all this money in song licensing revenue. It's just too expensive. We want to cut you in on the ad revenue because that's money that's coming from third parties. It's not in the deal. The only language that's in the deal is how the major record label and the artist are going to divvy up profits with respect to record sales. But if a record company is participating in ad revenue because another company wants to use the records, that language is not in the deals. And that's a problem.
So how much creative control are they willing to give? What does it depend on?
My clients, we actually get a lot of creative control. The only time we're getting restrictions is, not to do anything that's offensive to the brand. That's the big thing. But yeah, they will actually, they will drop you. They will drop you, and they will have a provision in the agreement that says that if we're dropping you for whatever the case may be, you got to pay us back.
That's something I have a problem with in those agreements.
No, that's something we spend a lot of time on, because it's like, one, if you know my artist, if you're familiar with the content, we can make an agreement for for no swearing or whatnot. But you approach my client.
It's you.
It's you.
It's all you.
It's you.
I mean, really. Because they don't care. They don't know what's the top ranked law school. Really, it's impressive and it's cool to add on. But it's not like because if you're an asshole and you went to Harvard, but some people like assholes, so it just depends, right? Because some people, that's what they want. They want an asshole attorney that's gonna come here like, we gonna do this, and they're like, yeah, let's go, and then some people don't want that. They want some. It all depends on the person. Like when you said, your clients fit with you, and in my instance, a lot of people were my friends in music, so I knew so many people in music, and they would just say, Stacy, I want you to represent me, and kind of in that way too. Is how I got a lot of my first clients, and then it comes from referrals. Yeah. When people that think highly of you send people your way, and that's one of the best ways. Yeah,
that really is. And when you're starting out, you're not going to have a ton of experience to say, I've done these deals for this person, or this is what I was able to do, or this is what I represent. You're just not going to. It really is going to be the platform that you build for who you are. I promise you.
And like you say, your brand.
Your brand, that is absolutely it. Because when I graduated, I had no experience, but I believed, I don't care who you are, you want me on your team. I believed I was the woman for the job. I believed it. Had nothing to prove it, nothing. But I believed it. And I communicated that to people. And another thing, just by being a woman. Sometimes people say that there's disadvantages to it. We can be firm and we can be nurturing at the same damn time. We can, and I think creative people need to be nurtured. Not sometimes baby, but and as a woman, there's just that thing that we have. We can be assertive, we can be firm, but we can look you in your eye and say, men can't do that. Can't do that. Men can't do that. But it's going to be you. So even as a student, you are in our position now to shape that. You don't have to graduate and then figure that out. You can start on that.
How often do you think there are opportunities for music attorneys to drive change? Do you think there's more opportunities with major artists or independent artists? Do you think with major labels and dealing with so much red tape and different people that the opportunities come few and far between? Can you just talk a little bit about that, like your own opinion about that?
Yeah, I think it's there are many ways that change is needed. We talked about change within the profession, how we advise and counsel and build our brands from holistic or bottom up. With our clients on the education piece, making sure that they're aware of the business of their craft, how to protect their property, how to set themselves up in such a way where the property that they create now can generate revenue for them 10, 15 years from now. I think that the challenge in the much needed change comes with the companies, in the types of deals that are being structured. I don't know how to approach those things, but I do feel an obligation to be a part of creating that change. How do we, I don't necessarily believe that the artist should be winning everything. I do believe that there's a fair ground that we are not on. We have the content creators, the artists, the songwriters, and producers who, unless you're on a major scale and you're getting all kinds of plays, you're really losing out. But it's the corporations that are not losing out financially, and they won't. And they absolutely won't. So it's how do we work with talent, and even music executives and entrepreneurs, how do we work with them in such a way where they're aware of this and they're looking to do business in a way that creates more fair ground? Is it going to happen with a major label artist? Yes, if they're absolutely fed up with the situation that they're in. As far as being able to change the nature of their deal, that's going to be a bit more difficult. They have the leverage to do so then. It's really going to happen with the next wave of people. Everybody was that next. All the Puffs, the Jay-Z's were the next. All the music executives that are in there now, they were the next at some point. You know, we are the next. So it's going to happen on this level, and it's something that we'll see all the time. And to create your own lane, you got to be willing to put. Same thing as a music lawyer, as a professional. Creating your own lane will certainly work out for you in the long run. But to establish it, keep it, maintain it, keep it going, you really have to be all in and be dedicated and ready to roll your sleeves up. Like if this is a profession that you want to come into, graduate from law school, you're a lawyer, great. What's next?